it says, Margot Robbie, female-led Pirates of the Caribbean movie dead at Disney. The actress revealed this in a recent interview with Vanity Fair. Dead. That's what it said.
They killed it.
We're having a funeral.
So it says the Margot Robbie female-led Pirates of the Caribbean movie is dead at Disney. While speaking with Vanity Fair, Robbie revealed that Disney doesn't want to go through with the movie. Well, yes, because Johnny Depp was exonerated in the court of public opinion.
Well, they reportedly gave him a sorry muffin basket and offered $301 million and more, and then more alpacas than he.
So the question is, how many alpacas will they need now to get him back?
Right, exactly.
That is the question.
I mean, as far as we know, there was no script written for this movie. It was just an idea that they were floating around.
I hope it was just like a bunch of Disney execs at lunch with Margot Robbie one day. They're like, we really like you. What if we did like a new movie with like, I don't know, pirates? Would you be into that?
What it is they had Christina Hodson on board, who did Bumblebee. She did Birds of Prey. Not that that's a positive to anyone's record. But she was also involved in the Batgirl movie that was canceled. That's
not a good sign.
There's a running theme here, isn't
what
there?
What if she becomes like the actress, you put her in a project?
No, she's a writer.
Cancel.
This is a writer. So
you have her write your thing, cancel.
Like somebody's like, I really want this project to go under, and they're like, I got it.
Where's
hire
that
Christina
one girl
Hodson.
who's cursed?
I think that a Margot Robbie led Pirates of the Caribbean movie would just end up being a second round of like Birds of Prey.
Yes.
No one likes it or no one watched it.
Well, just like
it was a failed attempt at making a female lead
also,
from a male-led franchise.
Pirates are like early 2000s, right? Like we went through a Pirates phase.
Yeah.
There was a zombie moment. I'm telling you,
we're in westerns right
we
now.
are in westerns.
We're in
Put
westerns
Margot
right
Robbie
now.
in a western, and it'll be solid. Like just let the pirate thing go. I know we're trying to beat up Johnny Depp, but you need to get with the times.
But this is what I mean. I sent an article to everyone at the company yesterday that said, this is the pendulum swinging back the other way. And this is an article about Emily Blunt that she did with the AV Club. And it says, Emily Blunt says she is bored of the strong female lead. She said, speaking to the Telegraph, that those roles are written as incredibly stoic. You spend the whole time acting tough and saying tough things. And so she says, it's the worst thing ever when it shows up in a script that just makes me roll my eyes. That's because it is anti-woman and it goes against human nature. That is what most of these tropes are. The idea of wokeness, or whatever you want to say, as much as we hate that term, goes against human nature. It asks people to behave in ways that humans don't generally behave regarding their gender, regarding a lot of other things, right? So a woman who's should be glorified for many things in the world just isn't normally seen as that type of character. Now, I was watching a movie, and I posted a bunch about this on my Instagram story last night. I was watching this movie called Ambulance by Michael Bay, and there's these characters, this character played by Isa Gonzalez that is the most annoying version of a strong female lead, only to be outdone by her equally awful male like side character co-star. They're not the main characters of this movie, but basically what it is she's going through all of these emergency situations, and she's strong, she's stoic, and she's emotionally detached from everything, whereas the guy is like emotionally volatile, completely caught up in it, really, really happy when this patient or when this person gets saved, but then at the same time is creepy and like hits on her, and nobody's written the way you would actually write somebody that works in that profession based on their gender. You could expect a woman would maybe be like that for years and years of experience, but you wouldn't expect the dude to necessarily be both emotionally flappable, connected to wanting this kid to survive, but also somehow a creep that hits on a woman and is anti-female. Mm-hmm. None of it makes sense because it goes against the nature of human beings. I would excuse it in a Michael Bay movie because he tends to write his characters as caricatures.
Because he can do whatever he wants.
No, because he writes his characters as caricatures. Yeah. But that is a microcosm of what these industries are as a whole, right? She's not allowed to be vulnerable or have any type of motherly instinct with this bleeding child in a car. Mm-hmm. She has to be strong and unflappable like a guy would be.
Yeah. So I just read this really interesting piece in Rolling Stone on Sadie Robertson Huff, if you know who that is.
Do you know who that is?
So
no.
She was, I don't follow her, but she is a Christian influencer who got her start when her family made it big on the show Duck Dynasty. She's from Louisiana.
Yeah.
Right. And she was like on Dancing with the Stars, and I don't know what else she did, but like has maintained influencer fame. And she is known specifically right now for, I think it's called Live Out Loud, or like I don't know what it is, but it's like a Christian-based social media platform and lifestyle brand where it's got like prayer groups and all kinds of things, and they have conferences. And Rolling Stone sent a journalist to sort of profile her, like, what is she teaching? And their headline was that she's teaching she's basically making submissive womanhood look good, and this is like perplexing to the journalist. But she had this really interesting observation that she was like, in this world of like intense hustle culture, and you have to be tougher and you have to be stronger. And basically, she's not saying it, the journalist, but like pushing women to imitate masculine values, even when it's not natural to them. This idea that like being submissive and embracing some more like relaxed ways of approaching the world for your faith is actually attractive to women because it feels more in line with their natural emotional and psychological habits. I find this really interesting. I don't think there's any way. It would be hilarious if Emily Blunt was like, yes, I attended Sadie Robertson Huff's conference. I don't think that's the case here, but I do think that like this constant pressure to be like a girl boss, or if you're portraying a successful woman in a movie, you have to be like, I don't know how to have kids and I can't talk to them and I'm busy business. Like that's no longer attractive for both female actors or female audiences.
Well, you liked A Quiet Place, and that would be an example of the right way to do a character like that.
Right. A lot of people praised A Quiet Place for portraying like a stable nuclear family. That's something that is surprisingly rare in cinema these days. I haven't seen Edge of Tomorrow, but people think that she's hinting the character she played in Edge of Tomorrow is exactly that Mary Sue strong female lead trope that is unshakable, that is...
It's all the characters now, though. It's all the women.
That has complete resolve and self-assurance no matter what, and is always right, and all the men around her are always wrong. I don't know if that's actually the character she played in Edge of Tomorrow, but some people said that that's the character that made them like her as an actress, so I really don't know. But she is a pro, and she's played a lot of other female characters that people say are more complex than that. And
when that came out, that would have been a far less common trope than it is now, where it's literally like, you are far more surprised now to see a guy with any level of skill, agency, or the ability. Like when people watched Top Gun, they were actually surprised that they didn't make Tom Cruise a buffoon.
But it's because Tom Cruise was in that.
What I thought that they were going to do is something condescending where they show him as a fish out of water character.
With the modern world.
As like the butt of the joke. The comic relief is that he doesn't understand how the world works anymore. That's what I thought they were going to do with Top Gun Maverick. I was surprised and glad that they did not.
And I think largely the reason they didn't is because Tom Cruise is... himself is so specifically involved in production and everything about the movie. He has control over when it goes out, and so much I this is me speculating, but I think Tom Cruise's personal identity is a little bit tied to Maverick, or
I don't think he would have let them rewrite it to make him the fool there.
Exactly. I've never heard of a Tom Cruise movie where he is like the butt of the
where
joke.
He's not cool.
Yes.
Yeah, which is totally on purpose. It's funny that you mention there's a comeback of Westerns, because I literally just found out that Emily Blunt is about to star as a strong female lead, quite literally, in a Western called The English on Amazon Prime. It's going to be like a limited series. But it looks cool from the trailer.
She's like, this is the last one. I'm done after this.
Yeah.
No, but like here, this is her description of the character, and I think there's words here that kind of depart from what the trope of the strong female character is. She says, I love a character with a secret, and I loved Cornelia's buoyancy and her hopefulness. And she also says she's innocent without being naive, and that makes her a force to be reckoned with. I would argue that they do not portray them. They have to portray them as not innocent, but also objectively all-knowing, meaning that they're never allowed to be wrong. They're never allowed to be seen as on the lower, as not having the right opinion. And it's one of those things that's so boring. One of the ways that they did this early on that always bothered me. So the tropes would be on TV would be like, if it's a guy and a girl and they're playing poker, the woman always wins at poker, because that's traditionally something you would expect men to be good at.
Or chess.
Or chess, or any type of thing where or like the woman's
or an arm wrestling competition.
I don't know about that one, but like sports, or like the woman will know everything about a sports team, and the guy will be like, oh, I don't know anything about it, because guys are the ones who traditionally like sports more, and they have been doing this at the television level for decades and decades, to the point where like it's weirder now when the guy is actually more like a guy, but they still think people are seeing that and like, holy crap, look at this.
Subverting
this
expectations
is so different.
In only the most shallow possible ways. Yeah.
So it's like, and this is what it goes to the term of get woke, go broke, because like we've seen here recently, Disney is not doing well, and Disney was the ones who produced Pirates of the Caribbean. They had a horrible fourth quarter at their Q4 earnings call, third quarter, where they talk about how they have there's a hiring freeze and they're limiting travel as their stock creators. I'm always one of those people that I kind of fall back on, like, yeah, but is it really though? But Bob
it's
Chapek,
Disney. They're obviously not sinking under, but they're not doing as well as they could be.
Given all the properties they own and the material they have.
Yeah, and after unfairly booting Johnny Depp from his own franchise due to mere speculation that he was guilty of these domestic abuse allegations, I believe that they deserve for this franchise to fade away into obscurity. Yeah. I'm glad that he doesn't seem willing to come crawling back after they treated him so unfairly. And
also, do we need a fifth Pirates of the Caribbean movie?
Wouldn't it be like a sixth?
Six, I think.
No.
Like, who's even counting anymore, obviously? But yeah, and a lot of people pointed out that if they did resurrect this franchise with Margot Robbie at the helm, it just wouldn't be the same, even though she's a very likable actress and it would bring a big audience. It wouldn't have the same spirit as before, and it would feel like maybe not a betrayal, but definitely like they were trampling on the legacy that Johnny Depp had.
Well, and there's no benefit to Margot Robbie for doing this, right?
She doesn't gain it. She doesn't gain
She doesn't need
She's not
that.
going to gain critical acclaim if that's important to her. It's not going to make so much money that she can retire for the rest of her life. She's only going to get compared to Johnny Depp, meaning that her name is going to be linked to all the stuff that went on forever from now on. Like, that's going to be mentioned in every coverage. Like, in addition to my objection to ridiculous numbers of sequels to movies, I just don't see, why she would invest her time as a talent in this project when probably anything at this point that she puts her name on will get the same kind of press coverage.
Yeah, she doesn't seem too broken up about it or anything, obviously.
It's not like she hasn't been in a movie. Doesn't she have Barbie coming out pretty soon? Like,
yes, and Babylon is coming out. Like, she's in pretty much every blockbuster
if you hadn't worked in a really long time, I guess I could understand being like, I've got to do it. But that's not the case for Margot Robbie. And Disney and the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise benefit more from having her in it than she does from being a part of it.
Right, she doesn't need to ride off the coattails of the name recognition.
But they need her.
They need her more than she needs them. And I had seen some tweets pointing out that it's unfair that she would then, like, by taking that lead role, be tethered to the controversy of the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial and the aftermath being like people asking questions about the fate of this franchise and saying that no one could do it justice except for Johnny Depp. And specifically, they were hoping he wouldn't come back to the franchise, some of them, because they think that it would be admitting defeat.
The big losers in a lot of these are the young actors who they saddle with these roles where they're told to be join this franchise that wasn't something that they were part of before, where they race and gender swap a character and they put in a no-name actor that nobody's ever heard of.
It'll be your breakout role.
And it's never their breakout role.
Playing someone who people liked before the way they were.
Oddly enough, Yahya Abdul-Mateen and Moses Ingram were both in that movie that I was watching last night, and Moses Ingram was a lot more believable as his character's wife. With their child at home where they're dealing with financial struggles and they've got their own worries that have to do with the real world. She was more believable in that than she was as Reva in Star Wars. But, that's not going to get her the press that the Star Wars one. Margot Robbie doesn't need that press. She's got plenty of press on her own.
Some suggested that they retool the franchise so that there is a duo, like Johnny Depp and Margot Robbie, both partners in crime in a movie, and then eventually that she would be the successor and it wouldn't be such a stark difference between the two different eras.
Still doesn't work.
Not necessarily. Like, we don't need a 6th, 8th, 12th Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and neither one of them needs it for their career. I mean, I know he's been through a lot and has to do stuff, but like he's got his band and his lady lawyer. Johnny Depp's doing okay.
Yeah,
you know?
He's. I think they'll be fine. And for me, like it makes way less sense for Margot Robbie to do it when she is clearly the most sought after woman in Hollywood right now. It feels like I don't know who would you'd get Scarlett Johansson maybe, but not even really that anymore.
Anya Taylor-Joy is the only other one I think has like a similar prestige right now.
Yeah.
But they have a way different look and vibe.
Yes.
So
Margot Robbie is classic Hollywood.
Yeah, they both have their own selling points. I don't like the framing that a female-led Pirates of the Caribbean movie is inherently woke. I get that gender swapping a male lead for a female lead in a franchise is obviously done for some nefarious purposes, but also at the end of the day, they are just looking to make a profit. And it's not really about like their feminist principles as much as it is about resurrecting this dead corpse of a franchise to wring out a little more money before it dies for good. Yeah. Like that's really what it's about. And I don't think it's inherently woke to do that.
Yeah,
I disagree.
I
disagree. It's inherently woke.
You could,
and again, Margot Robbie isn't woke.
Again, I stand by I think we should all focus on Westerns. Westerns is where we are going as a trend. But if you were to do a pirate movie, having a female-focused main character and a female-led narrative could be really interesting. It doesn't necessarily have to be woke. We forget that. We get afraid that every time.
What makes it that is that they're taking it off the backs of one that didn't need that type of messaging.
Right, and like it seems obvious from the limited information that we have that they're going to have her step into the role of Captain Jack Sparrow.
No, she would play a different character, I'm sure.
But it would be like
Jacqueline Sparrow. Yeah.
It would be to fill that void that Johnny Depp has left, and he's the captain of a ship. Like, I just don't think that the way they are seeing her would lend itself to anything but a woke storyline. That is not to say that they couldn't have had an interesting story about pirates that features a main female character. They're just not going to do it because, at least I'm not giving them enough credit. I don't believe in their creativity.
I don't think that matters because what makes it woke and what makes it awful is that they cannot get these stories. There is nothing in that type of storytelling that is inherently appealing to average moviegoers. So they have to piggyback off of more popular franchises. And that's what makes it that way. Taking a character that is one way, completely changing it based on gender ideology and politics, whether the story is or isn't, it's the use of the name.
No, I think that would have appeal outside of the resurrected franchise. Margot Robbie has a huge draw.
Then not under that name.
And then she would be like this hot pirate. Yeah. Like, I think a lot of people would watch that if they didn't attach it to the franchise.
Yeah. And then that doesn't matter anyways because they're not.
But they wouldn't do that. I'm not saying that would ever realistically happen.
Well, also like there's no.
But I don't think it's woke to do that.
There's no reason for Disney to put out a pirate movie that isn't linked to this universe they've created for themselves, right? Like it will be a long time before they produce a pirates movie that just for audience recognition, right? Everyone who's a vague Disney fan will be like, oh, another pirate movie? Where's Captain Jack? Like, there's no reason for them to. Again, let's focus on Westerns, people. But I think Margot Robbie could be interesting. I think part of it is to have a movie about pirates that was led by a strong female lead, not strong as in a feminist way, just like someone who could carry the weight of a dynamic character.
But is that accurate to... Is that accurate
dynamic,
to
hold on. A dynamic character. They would have to accept that certain gender roles were just established and accepted during that time period, and they won't do that.
That will never happen.
They cannot portray those kind of gender roles. So we can't have that kind of story. So we can only insert her into gender-bended roles like replacing Captain Jack. And that's why I think we should just leave it all behind. We didn't need more Pirates of the Caribbean then. We don't need it now. And Margot Robbie, if you're listening, this is a terrible idea for your career. Don't pursue this.
I do believe that just keeping the franchise, changing the gender of any character automatically gets that label, and I don't think that's unfair. Like,
has a woman ever been gender swapped for a guy lead? Like, I cannot think of that.
What do you mean? Like, it's a female character that they make male?
Yeah, are there female to male gender swapped roles anymore? Like, ever? Or have there ever been?
I can't think of one. I mean, really, this is a
because
relatively
that doesn't
concept,
subvert expectations.
And it's about representation. Yes. Like, not just subverting expectations, but saying, like, we don't see enough female this. We don't see enough female that. Or enter any other diversity label into that perspective. So probably not, or at least not one that's effective. I also would note, like, what's the new Sherlock Holmes thing that's
Enola Holmes?
Enola Holmes.
Oh
like,
my
it's not
gosh.
exactly a gender swap, but we just are like, it turns out
They
they're
would
younger
never have made-
sister,
okay.
or like they're
The messaging that was
They would
abhorrent.
never make that movie without the name Holmes in it. It's not. They're never going to call that Enola. They're just going to. It has to have the Holmes in it because
Right.
they know it connects his label. That is what makes it inherently ideological and political, because they do not have the ability to tell these stories in a way that is satisfying to viewers that will get them to pay money.
Someone
I would
commented,
argue-
"There's something about Gary."
Hey, I would see that. Wait, no, I wouldn't see that.
it would be interesting. Or like, what's that one where he like Jack Black's in it, and there's something about, or Mary? No, that's not
What?
thing. He like is really shallow, and then he gets cursed.
Shallow
and
Hal?
he like, yes, thank you. Apparently that's
He
the
was
name.
shallow.
But like, I would be interested in seeing like what the gender swap version of that is. You know what I mean? Like, if a woman gets cursed, what does she see in this, like, you know, weird romantic comedy? Because women are actually, as statistics show, less likely to value physical appearance and more likely to value.
She sees him and she sees a fuller bank account than
Yeah,
is
that's what
actually
that would be
there.
hilarious.
She's like, wow, he's a millionaire, and he's like, I'm literally broke. And she's like,
no
oh, but he
idea.
looks so rich to
Like,
me.
if gender swapping told more interesting and dynamic stories, like, I would be okay with it in a limited capacity, but it never does.
They do not know how to
It's
do
only
that.
interesting if it's like cartoon characters,
or if it's exploring a
some
new level of the story or interpersonal dynamics, right? Like, retelling the same story but just making it a female lead is boring. We already saw the story, and especially something like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, it did well, and we liked Captain Jack for a reason. You know, like, he's iconic. Children who are in Make-A-Wish, at St. Jude's, ask for him to come visit them. Like, you don't become that beloved character by not being strong. Why would you think you could just make it female and that it would be okay? Like, it would survive.
It goes against human nature, and that's why people reject it. It never comes off as authentic. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.